What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about XLM stellar lumens today. Hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and let's get into it, my friends. Here we are on the 16th of April with about 3 hours left in the day. Pretty neutral day so far, nothing too crazy going on. The daily RSI to me does look a little bit sad. You've been in a downtrend for quite some time, right? Lower highs this whole time, lower highs. And you just can't seem to get above the 50 or stay above the 50. Hell, you have a hard time getting above the 40 even. So I do believe that you will come back down a little bit. Will you find a higher high or a higher low? Will you find a lower low? Will it be significant? Will it not be significant? Something to the downside is all I'm expecting. I don't know how far down you're going to go, but if we look at the price here, maybe from this relative low to this relative high, we can interpret, a move down to the golden ratio down there at about 21.8 to 21.5 cents. That really could be where you go. It's not completely certain one way or another if this is the low or if it isn't the low yet. I wouldn't be surprised if it was. 20 cents was an area that we were anticipating. 20 to 18 cents. That's a highly anticipated area for this for this consolidation phase to find support on. But is it the low? Is it the low? Do we go lower? That remains to be seen. And it's very possible that you could go lower than 20 cents stellar lumens. You could go below 18.77 cents, 17.3 cents. That target area could very well be available. I just have a hard time seeing you do that because that kind of drop, that promotes a 20% drop or more. And I don't think Bitcoin's going to drop even 5% from here, or maybe even with that. I don't think it's going to drop 10% from here. So why would I think that XLM would drop twice that amount? That doesn't make any sense, let alone anything more than that. But it could happen. By the way of the charts, we're still not validated on Bitcoin or XLM as having found its low yet. But if I had to guess where you're going to go, looking at the 4 hour here, I'm going to move this away, delete that. Yeah, you found support at your 382. You're now finding resistance at the 236. At least that's what it looks like. If in the next 2 hours and 55 minutes, if you can close above about 23.9 cents, 24 cents, if you can close above there in the next 2 hours and 55 minutes, if you can do that, you probably do continue to go higher. You don't go lower from here. But if not, you're rejecting your 236. I would very much expect that lower you go down to 21.8 to 21.5 cents. The 4 hour RSI looks bearish. The daily RSI looks bearish. The 1 hour RSI looks bearish. A little bit more bullish, but still bearish, all of which would point to the downside. And if you do interact with this 382, it's very unlikely that you would bounce off of it. I think that, especially because you've bounced off it twice already, I think that you would go below and at least hit the 0.5. Maybe find support where you found support and resistance before, maybe. But I'm more in favor of the golden ratio than the 0.5 most of the time. So 22.47 cents, 21.5 cents, something in between most likely, right? You're at 23.6 cents now. After you get this little move down out of the way, which I think will happen over the next day, maybe, we'll start to move up. I do believe that XLM is in a very nice, well-positioned bull flag, right? You can see it maybe more clearly on a weekly basis. If we take this relative low to relative high, you've skimmed the golden ratio, looking to find support there, but you just couldn't quite get there, and that's fine, man. Reaching for the golden ratio, not actually touching it, but then getting a positive reaction, that's actually much more bullish than interacting with the golden ratio is, because I'm sure we're not the only people looking at this. Maybe it was more of a fib from like this level here, and you're bouncing off the 0.5. I don't know. Still obscure one way or another, but if we're looking at this as a bull flag, and I think that it is a bull flag, we take the low of the flagpole here to the high of the flagpole. We put this at the base of the flag itself. Your measure move would take you to about $1.43. $1.43. So whenever it comes time to moving up, regardless of what you do in the short term, right? Do you move down a little bit? Do you move up a little bit? Whatever. You're coming to a point where you're going to break out of this flag one way or another, and I think that way that you're breaking out will be to the upside, not to the downside. We're dying off in volume as you progress lower, as you continue to consolidate and volume dies off. That tells you one thing and one thing only: you're getting ready for a breakout. It doesn't necessarily imply that we're going to the upside, but the pattern being a bullish flag pattern, the RSI in a bullish positioning on the weekly time frame, gives me a feeling that you will break out to the upside, right? But time will tell. Being that crypto also as a whole seems like it's going to break out to the upside, I would think that happens as well, but time will tell. From an all-time high to the low back in 2020 here of that bear market low, the high in 2018 January to the low in 2020 March, the minimum target, once you see a new high, the minimum target would be $2.46. Now your measure move puts you right here, right? Puts you right at the top of that line back over here. Right, puts you right at about $1.48. $1.50. Let's just say $1.50. With measure moves, you can find resistance right at them, or it's common enough to exceed the measure move, fall shy of the measure move, you know, something in between. It doesn't have to be, it's just an idea. It doesn't have to be specifically met. It's just an idea. This idea points to $1.50. This idea points to $2.46, and the one just below it points to a 93-cent price. I have a theory. My theory is that Stellar Lumens here has been in a multi-cycle consolidation phase, of which it recently broke out. Perhaps it's still in a multi-cycle consolidation phase. Maybe instead of it being a wedge of sorts, right? Maybe instead of it being this wedge pattern, maybe instead it's a ascending triangle. And in which case, regardless, however you want to look at it, if it just broke out, if it has yet to broke out, my assumption would be that this move will carry on. It'll be the largest move of the cycle, because you're really cutting loose here. You're seeing new all-time highs, right? Whether this was the beginning of the breakout or this next move is the beginning of the breakout, this will follow through with this initial phase up here. This will follow through with the overall consolidation here, leading you to new all-time highs, blue sky breakouts, discovery mode, and that's oftentimes when you do your best work. I don't think, in other words, to put it short and simple, I don't think you spent 2 cycles consolidating to stop here below your minimum target, which is at 246. And I certainly don't believe that you spent multiple cycles just to see a move that takes you right back to your all-time highs. I think you're going to new all-time highs, and you're not stopping at $1.50. Okay, 246 is the target that I'm going for, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop there. From a relative high to a relative low last cycle, the 1272 meets up with that measure move as well. So $1.50 is looking promising for resistance, even with my theories behind aside, right? I really think that 218, just above 218, something like that could happen, and that 1272 is right there. The 1414, little fun known fact about the 1414 is that when you interact with this, you tend to go just above it. Just above that there is the minimum target here from the all-time high 2 cycles ago. So I really do like that 246 area, 218, 220 area, something like that. And if we look at this, if we compare it to Bitcoin, I think we can get another representation of the price as well. I'm just going to delete all this stuff and cut out the noise a little bit. Let's look at XLM BTC, right? Let's see if we get some sense made out of it looking at it like this. So looks like you're in a bull flag on the Bitcoin chart as well, right? The Bitcoin chart, I trust this bull flag probably is met a little bit closer than the USD bull flag will be, but let's just see. That line there, where are you going to stop? Let's see if we can make the most sense out of this, right? That's the measure move area. I like it. That makes a little bit of sense, right? Resistance right here, resistance right there on a closing basis, resistance there. I could see you finding resistance there. From an all-time high to the low of this move here, that's right at your golden ratio. I like it. Let's move it up a little bit, right? Measure move, maybe go a little bit higher, because again, measure moves are just ideas. They're not specific, so you can go a little bit higher. That would give you a measure move or a price of about, what is that, 4 zeros? 4 zeros, 1 5, 4 zeros, 1 4 9. Let's just do that, okay? Google calculator. 1 2 3 4, 4 zeros, 1 4 9, right? This one here, 4 zeros, 1 4 9 3. That's what it was. This is the price versus Bitcoin. Now, to determine what the price in US dollars would be, we just need the price of Bitcoin. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when XLM, whenever Stellar Lumens breaks out to new all-time highs, whenever it's making its move like this or higher, right, to the area that we might be expecting, I'm expecting Bitcoin is not at 84,000. Bitcoin, in fact, is probably moving higher itself. I believe Bitcoin by the end of its next move will be all the way up at 170 to 180K by the end of June, right? Sometime like over in this area here, right? A little bit longer of a move there. An intense move, but it's going to take a couple months to come to full maturity. If I think Bitcoin's going to go to 170 to 180K, let's say that I'm too optimistic. Let's say that I'm wrong. Let's say I'm wrong so much so that Bitcoin doesn't even get there by the end of June. In fact, it only goes to 130K. Can we level with that at least? 130K being the next target. If Bitcoin moves up, the rest of crypto moves up, Stellar Lumens is going to move up. Where would Bitcoin be? Right? Because we've got the XLM BTC price kind of figured out, right? The measure move takes you right by the golden ratio. We input that. We multiply it by the Bitcoin price, which I think 130K is a fair assumption. So let's do that. 130K times 130 gives you about $1.94. Okay, so $1.94, and I feel like we're being not not too pessimistic, but we're not being overly conservative. I feel like we're being pretty fair with this here, right? And then maybe even I would even say pessimistic for sure with the price being at 130K. I think that you'll go higher, but with the XLM BTC thing, I think this is that's an appropriate number to gauge from. $1.94, that's not quite at 246. But hey, man, it makes a little bit of sense, at least from a high to a low here. You know, you've got $1.94 right around there, the 141 you could find resistance just below $2 instead of going just above it. You don't have to hit these lines. These lines are all ideas. Again, they're not requirements. But let's mess with this a little bit more. 1493 times, instead of 130K, let's say Bitcoin's a little closer to where I think it's going to go. Let's say it's at 100, and let's just say 160K, right? That gives you a 238 price, and that sounds a little bit more appropriate. So thinking about where I think Bitcoin's going to go, comparing it to where I think XLM is going to go on the USD chart, and then multiplying the BTC XLM comparison to the BTC price itself, I think it all points to the same area, right? It all at a minimum level, we're above $1.54. At a maximum level, we're well above $2. I don't believe that XLM sees prices too much above like 246, 250. I think it could, but I do believe that you're going to reach for $2, if not break $2 by the end of this next move, which I think will take place over the coming weeks, over the rest of the month of April, going into May and June. I think that's how long it's going to take for this move to fully develop, right? Last time it was just 1 month, one glorious month, 469% to the upside. This time I think it's going to be spread out across this month of April, May, and June, right? We're probably going to see an overall 900% move from the current price. So XLM has a lot of growth to go. I've got nothing else to say. Hit the like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Remember, the price probably comes down a little bit, but don't let that scare you. You've got a lot more to worry about than just this, right? The upside, it's not even comparable. You've got a lot more to the upside to worry about than this little potential downside that may or may not happen. But that's all I got for you guys. Take it easy. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.